Now, on the Georgia vote, it's the Democrats' turn to hold their national convention and officially nominate the ticket of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. We'll hear from some of Georgia's delegation before they make their way to Chicago. Also,
it has changed dramatically.
For the better?
Not necessarily.
Former Governor Nathan Deal gives his thoughts on the state of politics in Georgia, how he views the race for the White House, and the inspiration behind his new children's book. And Democratic strategist Fred Hicks and Republican strategist Jen Ryan sit down this week at our political roundtable, all right now on the Georgia Vote.
From the 11 Alive studios, this is the Georgia Vote with Faith Jesse and Zach Merchant.
Welcome into the Georgia Vote. I'm Zach Merchant. Faith Jesse will return next week. We are back from our Olympics hiatus on the eve of the Democratic National Convention. The four-day event in Chicago is expected to bring plenty of star power within the party. Among those lined up to speak are President Joe Biden and former Presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. Former President Jimmy Carter's grandson, Jason Carter, also signed on to address the convention. More than 100 delegates from Georgia will be on hand for the next 4 days. Among them, Nico Parra. The 20-year-old is a poll manager with Gwinnett County and will be Georgia's youngest Latino delegate at the DNC.
I am 20 right now, and I still have a lot left to learn and to live. And so for me, seeing history for the first time, seeing a female African-American Asian president would be a historic first for all of us. So I really am motivated. I think that a lot of my peers are also motivated to cast their ballot in November.
Helping to lead Georgia's delegation is Congresswoman Nikema Williams, who chairs the state Democratic Party. With Vice President Kamala Harris now at the top of the Democratic ticket, how will that impact Georgia's role in the presidential election?
So Vice President Harris will continue to come back. She has been no stranger to Georgia, having been here over a dozen times already since she's been vice president. But if you look at just in the first 24 hours after she was announced as running for president, we had over 1,000 volunteers just at the Democratic Party of Georgia.
Just here in Georgia?
Yes, the most volunteers we've ever had to sign up in a 24-hour period, over 1,000. Our donations increased by 320% here in Georgia. So we know that there's a level of excitement of people ready to get engaged in a way that they've never been before.
NBC News will have extensive coverage of the Democratic National Convention from Chicago starting Monday at 10 p.m., followed by 11 Alive News at 11. We will recap the convention next Sunday on the Georgia Vote. Well, it is a history-making case that is far from over. This past week marked 1 year since former President Donald Trump and 18 others were indicted in Fulton County, accused of attempting to overturn Georgia's 2020 presidential election results. Today, we show you where the case against Donald Trump began and where it stands now.
Breaking news from the Fulton County Courthouse.
We are reading this together.
The defendants engaged in a criminal racketeering enterprise.
We did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong.
A year ago, on August 14th, a Fulton County grand jury indicted former President Donald Trump and 18 others in a sprawling election interference case.
No one's ever done this before.
Hours after the indictment was unsealed, Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis laid out a fast timetable.
We will be asking for a trial date within the next 6 months.
But that did not happen. By January, the case stalled after defense attorneys revealed Willis had shared a romantic relationship with the special prosecutor she chose to lead the case, Nathan Wade.
There's nothing secret or salacious about having a private life.
Former Gwinnett County DA Danny Porter, a Republican, watched as the controversy unfolded.
A personal relationship turned it into a circus.
During a 3-day hearing in February, defense attorneys argued the relationship created a conflict of interest, allowing the pair to improperly financially benefit from the case. They asked Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee to disqualify the prosecutors and dismiss the indictment. The DA took the stand herself, telling the defense attorneys the relationship that she said by then had ended never impacted her office's ability to impartially try the case.
You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020.
Judge McAfee ruled the relationship did not rise to the level of an actual conflict of interest, but said it did create an appearance of impropriety that could be cured if Wade left the case. He stepped down, and the judge then allowed the case to move forward.
That all was back in March, but the case is still stuck in neutral as judges here at the Georgia Court of Appeals evaluate a challenge to that ruling.
A hearing isn't scheduled until December, a month after voters go to the polls.
If the relationship between DA Fani Willis and Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade had never occurred, would this case have made it to trial before the election?
I don't believe so. I just don't.
Former DeKalb County DA Robert James, a Democrat, says other complications in the case, including the recent United States Supreme Court presidential immunity ruling in a different Trump prosecution, and the challenges of seating a jury with such a polarizing defendant, always made a verdict before the election unlikely.
You've got to find 12 people that can swear that they're impartial.
How long could that take?
Forever.
And even with no end in sight, the two veteran prosecutors from different political parties agree on this.
Can Atlanta, can Georgia, can the country get through it?
Yes. It's a miracle. We're built for this.
It might be difficult, but the United States will survive it.
The Fulton County District Attorney's Office declined to be interviewed for this story. Nathan Wade did not respond to multiple requests for comment. We also talked one-on-one with Ashley Merchant, the defense attorney who first revealed the romantic relationship between prosecutors. It kicked off months of litigation that is now before the Georgia Court of Appeals. Do you worry that the disqualification saga that you opened up prevented voters from getting an answer to this case before they have to go to the polls and cast a ballot when one of the defendants in this case is going to be on that ballot?
Not at all. I don't think at all. I think what caused the voters to not know what happened in this case is Ms. Willis and her actions. She's the one to blame, not me bringing to light those actions. They had a choice and could have done it differently, and they chose to go this path, and so those choices were made. We have to live with those choices, but those are definitely not my choices.
What do you say to people who say that you're defending election deniers?
You know, it's ironic that people bring that up. I've been doing criminal defense my entire life. For 20 years, I've been a criminal defense lawyer, and I've represented people that are accused of some really bad things, but yet I get more pushback from this case. And I'm a defense lawyer. I always tell everyone I'm a defense lawyer before anything else, and I think that everyone deserves to have a good, zealous defense. And I think if we don't have people checking the government's power, then we're in a very scary place in this country.
Could the Trump case have moved faster had defendants been charged individually as opposed to as one racketeering conspiracy?
100%. And if the defendants had been charged individually, or it had been a more narrow indictment like we see in the federal system, it would have moved through a lot easier.
Until the Georgia Court of Appeals rules, which is not expected until after the election, this case cannot move forward. State Senator, U.S. Congressman, Georgia Governor. Now Nathan Deal is adding a new title, children's book author. Coming up, we talk with him about his new venture and today's political climate. And later, a welding instructor in Cobb County shares what's important to him in the run-up to Election Day. Former Georgia Governor Nathan Deal was a stalwart in state politics for decades. Since leaving the governor's mansion, though, he's been mostly out of the spotlight. Now he's back with a new children's book called Vito, the Governor's Cat, and he still keeps a close eye on politics, too. Governor Deal joins us for today's Sunday Conversation. Your wife, Georgia's former First Lady, Sandra Deal,
yes.
Literacy was at the heart of her service to the state. I can see you thinking about her as you talk about this book. What does this book mean to you and to her legacy?
Well, this book is actually a tribute to her, and it is a book that she requested that I write. She had read to over 1,000 individual classrooms as First Lady. We estimate she probably read to 250,000 Georgia students a book in their classrooms. So after we left office, she was still getting requests to come read here and there and yonder. She said, I need you to write me a children's book. And I promised her I would, but I never got around to it. And then she got the diagnosis of brain cancer. And I realized I needed to get busy, so I did. I wrote it in its original form, read it to her. She liked it. She gave me the thumbs up. So she was the inspiration.
When you see this book in your hand here, do you feel that connection to her?
Absolutely. I do. I do. I think she would like it. I hope she would.
And the students she read to, you think
Yes.
they'd like it too?
I hope so.
What can people who don't know Sandra Deal, who don't know you, what can they learn from your relationship?
Well, we were married for over 56 years. We met on a blind date, and so we had a lot of history. We raised 4 children, and we are very proud of all of them. We were just the children of school teachers. Her parents were both school teachers, as were mine. So education was important to us from the very beginning. And this book, I think, carries forward that idea that it's important to impart literacy.
You left elected office in 2019.
Right.
That was only 5 years ago.
Yes.
How much has national politics changed in those 5 years?
Dramatically. It has changed dramatically.
For the better?
Not necessarily. I don't like the controversy and the name-calling and the things that don't deal with issues that really should matter to people. I realize we live in a different time where it's very difficult to communicate with people. It is very expensive in a political campaign to try to communicate your message to people. But it seems to me that you would better use that expensive time to talk about issues and where you stand on issues so that people can really know what to expect if they elect you to public office.
You signed an open letter a few weeks ago, the AJC reported, criticizing some remarks by former President Trump about Georgia's state elections board. Do you worry about the upcoming election?
Well, I'm a part of a group. It's a bipartisan group, the Defense of Democracy Foundation. And it was specifically designed to be bipartisan. Roy Barnes, Shirley Franklin are the 2 Democrats. Myself and Saxby Chambliss, former United States Senator, Republican, we are the 4 that constitute that group. Our main focus is to try to make sure that the confidence in our election process is maintained. And that's something that sometimes a lot of the chatter is designed to unsettle the public, to give them no confidence in the electoral process. And if we don't maintain confidence in our election system, apathy sets in, excuses for not voting prevail, and that's very, very detrimental to any form of government, especially a democracy.
Are you prepared to say who you will be supporting in the 2024 election for president?
Well, I'm a Republican, and I think I'll leave it at that. My wife was interviewed by a reporter as he traveled with her at one time, and it had been just past the election, and he said, well, now, who did you vote for president? She said, I'm not going to tell you. He said, well, why won't you tell me? She said, it's a secret ballot, and that's the way it's supposed to be.
To see our full interview, including Governor Deal's thoughts on some of the names rumored to be eyeing a run for the governor's mansion in 2026, look for this story on 11alive.com. Still ahead, we hear from this week's Voice of the Voter. But first, Fred Hicks and Jen Ryan on what we can expect this coming week at the DNC and the role Georgia will play in picking the next president. Right after this. Welcome back into the Georgia Vote. It is now time for our political roundtable. Today we have Republican strategist Jen Ryan. She's the founder and CEO of Final Draft Communications, and she's previously served as Deputy Chief of Staff for Communications for Governor Nathan Deal. And Democratic strategist Fred Hicks. He's the founder and president of the Hicks Evaluation Group, which has worked with hundreds of political campaigns over nearly 20 years. Welcome to you both. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start here. A lot is happening in the political world. Maybe top of mind right now is that the Democratic ticket has changed so much in the last month. Jen, I want to start with you. How would you characterize the state of the presidential race?
It is anybody's guess. The race is close, and like everything else this year, I think that if someone were to tell you they know how it would shape out in November, they're lying to themselves or to you.
And you're a seasoned political pro. You're not just somebody on the street. So for you to say that, that kind of means something.
I have yet to go through a news cycle where I am not surprised and then, something else happens the very next day. We are living in just wild times, and I don't think that is going to change. Certainly, it'll probably go on overdrive for the next 90 days.
Fred, I saw you nodding along and smiling a little bit. Some of the words that I've heard a lot in the discourse surrounding the newly constructed Harris ticket are momentum and optimism. Is this a flash in the pan, or is the Harris campaign going to be able to carry this to Election Day? Because it's all new.
Yeah. So the big question is this a moment or is this a movement? I tend to believe this leans more towards the movement, because you can have a good week in politics, but as Jen just alluded, a week is like a year, and a year is like a week in politics. So to sustain this for about a month now is really unprecedented. She's raising money unlike anyone ever has before, over $100 million a week or so. She's signing up people left and right, and she's gaining about a point a week in the polls. When she became the presumptive nominee on July 21st, the Democrats were behind in every single swing state, 2 to 3 points, some states 4, and behind in the national polls. And you got to remember that in 2020, the Democrats won the national vote by about 5 points. So to be behind was a pretty big thing. So this is where she is now, where we're basically in a tie or ahead, is tremendous.
From the Republican side, Jen, what do you think, what conversations are happening inside the Trump campaign, and what's their strategy to neutralize this potentially newly found momentum and then get back in the driver's seat themselves?
Well, I don't think it's a secret that this definitely caught the Trump campaign back on its heels. They need to get focused. They need to stay focused, go on attack, and attack on the issues. The border, inflation, immigration. I think you started to see that earlier this week in North Carolina when President Donald Trump talked about grocery prices. But there are 90 days left, and you cannot waste a single second if you are going to start attacking her on her record. And they need to be attacking on her record because her record is right now. There's no day one, as she keeps talking about. She's been in the White House for 3.5 years, at the helm of very disastrous, unpopular policies. So do something day one just doesn't cut it.
The DNC is about to start. Fred, what can audiences expect to hear from the vice president and top of the Democratic ticket now, Kamala Harris?
Well, I think, again, just kind of piggybacking on what Jen said, I think you're going to hear the vice president talk about a vision for the future. She's going to talk about what she will do as president and the things that people like about the last 3.5 years, such as capping insulin prices, the infrastructure bill, and a number of successes that the Biden-Harris campaign or administration have had. I think you'll see her embrace those, but then also start to step out of Biden's shadow and identify herself and her own platform.
We've got a little less than 3 months until Election Day now. Jen, what role is Georgia going to play in this presidential election?
Georgia is once again the center of the political universe. And
we've been doing that a lot lately.
Yes, we have. We should be very well versed in this. All roads to the White House either go through Georgia or Pennsylvania. Georgia is unique in that there are no other races at the top of the ticket besides the presidential election. So the turnout and the ground game here is going to be intense, and it is going to come down to, counting balls and strikes and making every single day count.
Fred, you mentioned that I saw you about to say something. Jump in here. Go ahead.
Well, as Chris Christie said earlier this year, that Republicans cannot win the presidency without winning Georgia. Mm-hmm. So we're right at the heart of everything.
You mentioned earlier this, I want to give you the last word here, that so much fundraising has been at the core of this election, and VP Harris has raised a lot. How big of an impact is that going to have here in Georgia?
I think it's going to have a tremendous impact. Just about a week or so ago, Donald Trump and the Republicans dumped another $23 million in ad buys into Georgia. And I think coming out of the convention this week, we're going to see Democrats do something very similar.
Georgians should get ready to see a lot of ads on TV.
TV, YouTube, everything.
A lot of politics. We could talk much longer. Unfortunately, we've got to wrap it up here. The good news is the Georgia vote is not over. When we come back, this week's Voice of the Voter focuses on a Cobb County welding school, how its instructor is grappling with the issues of the campaign. Well, in this turbulent political moment, it is easy to pay too much attention to the politicians and lose track of the people who will actually make the decision in November. But each week, we're working to make sure real Georgians stay at the center of the conversation. After all, you can't have the Georgia vote without Georgia voters. This week's Voice of the Voter comes out of Cobb County, where we hear from Ryan Blythe, who founded Georgia Trade School in Ackworth.
We're changing lives.
Tell me where we are right now.
Believe it or not, our welding lab is in a 100-year-old building.
And this is that welding lab?
This is our welding lab.
This is where all the training happens?
This is where all the training happens.
When you look around this room, you say you see opportunity. What does that mean to you?
Well, this is a skills and knowledge-based economy. It rewards those things. So we're teaching a skill, and it's a marketable skill. It's a skill that's in demand. It's a skill there is a shortage. And it's a skill where you can have it for the rest of your life. I feel like we're saving a lot of young men and women who didn't know what they wanted to do after high school.
And this is a way to make a lifelong living and a livelihood.
It's a path to middle-class security.
We've got a big election that is just a couple months away now. When you look ahead to it, what worries you the most?
The divisiveness. It seems like the two sides are simply interested in attracting their base. And they both had an opportunity to reach out to the center with their vice presidential selections, and they went in a different direction. I think we've gone through 3 consecutive cycles where a lot of people are disappointed with their choices. And I don't think we're talking about the serious issues. It's going to take compromise in order to fix this country.
What are the 2 biggest issues that are going to govern how you vote?
So as a small business owner, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act back in 2017, it's set to expire in 25. And that's helped a lot of small businesses with investments in equipment, in their facility, in their people. The Senate had an opportunity to address that earlier in the year, but they punted on it. So if it doesn't get extended, then I think it's going to hurt Main Street.
That's issue number 1. Is there a second issue that's important to you?
Well, I would like to see more support for what our graduates do. Being a welding school, at times we felt a little bit targeted. For example, like when the Keystone Pipeline got canceled. I want to see an emphasis on manufacturing jobs, energy jobs. I think that's really important to a business like ours.
We always end on this. What are you optimistic about?
Well, the best part of my job is I get to see 17 to 22-year-olds every day that are working hard, that have a great attitude, that want to contribute to our society, to our country, to make it a better country. And I think that sometimes we don't see young people from that perspective.
The folks who gloom and doom and say, this next generation, they're not like we were coming up.
Right.
They're missing something.
Yeah. I mean, and you hear that with every generation, right?
But the truth is,
there's a lot of great young people. They may be able to solve some of these problems.
Ryan says he started Georgia Trade School in 2012, and since then they've trained nearly 2,000 students. According to an industry trade group, more than 300,000 welding jobs will be needed by 2028. We appreciate you watching us today. Hope to see you here back again next Sunday at 11 for another edition of the Georgia Vote.